Oh my god. When I tell you, so back to the, I'm sorry, I'm on a roll right now.
I can see the stars align.
Hey Lions, it's your girl Precious Leon. Thank you so much for joining me for another, wow, we forgot our whole dang spiel. Let's try this again. Hey Lions, it's your girl Precious Leon. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Lionhearted Conversations with the Lion's Pride. I'm so excited to be back today and to share with you all the tea on where I've been and what's been going on, and just share my heart with you today. So we're just gonna skip the long intro. As always, grab yourself some tea, water, whatever you prefer, and let's get into it. Looking at the topic of today's conversation, you're probably like, Precious, what do you mean you've arrived? Girl, where have you been? And I'm gonna be honest, I've been all over the place. As I previously mentioned in a long video I dropped on my my TikTok and Instagram. If you want more insight on that, go look at that. But in the last couple of weeks, I have been blessed to be granted so many opportunities and experiences that have allowed me to really reflect, to go within, and to see myself. And so I just want to start with the question, what does it mean to arrive in the first place? For me, to arrive is to be fully present within yourself, to meet the being of who you are. And I know that seems a little bit like woo-woo, so I'll try to simplify it a bit. But as we go through life and we go through these experiences, whether it's through trauma, pain, or encounters with one another, we tend to disconnect parts of ourselves from the entire whole. And so for me, to arrive is to call all of those parts back home and to allow them to settle and to just be. For lack of better words, you know when you are driving or traveling and you finally reach your destination, or you finally get home and you're sitting in your driveway, and that feeling of peace or stillness that overcomes you because you know you're where you need to be. That to me is arriving in the context of being within ourselves. So now let's dive into, why are we having this conversation today? I had, back in like the end of June, the wonderful experience of going on this trip called Nourish Retreat, hosted by the beautiful Tia Marie and Jon'll crew. They're two phenomenal women. I will be sure to share all their information down below. But they brought together 9 other women, and we went on a retreat to River Mountain in Everett, PA. The space, first and foremost, I can go on a tangent for days about how beautiful and relaxing and literally nourishing this entire experience was, but just the space alone and the amenities and the staff members. Shout out to Miss Darcy, I love you so much. She was honestly the icing on the cake for this entire trip, but that I will have to go on a whole other video. I will leave the information for River Mountain as well. I'm actually wearing a shirt today. I don't know if you can see for those of you who are watching online, but I highly recommend that you take a trip out there, join one of their retreats that they host on their site. I'll leave all that information down below. But anyhow, I went on this amazing retreat and it changed my life. Like, inexplicably, it changed my life. It was only 2.5 days, but just the exercises that Tia put together, the intention she put into everything was really nourishing, and it shifted the way I see myself, the way I see my contribution to the community around me, the understanding of how community impacts me or influences me and how I need that as well. Just so many things, realizing where I have been. When you talk about where have you been, Precious, it wasn't until I had that moment of stillness and rest and rejuvenation that I was able to see that I've been running on fumes for months and weeks now. Now, coming out of it, I'm in such a better place, but like before that time, I was so overwhelmed by all the transitions that have taken place in my life for the past 6 months, to be honest, and how consuming that has been, and how I haven't been able to really nurture myself in a way that I could take a moment to just sit back, relax, recoup, and allow myself to enjoy where I am in my life and to face some of the things that I have been going through, instead of just like running on autopilot. And so I say all that to say that even before getting to the trip, we had a Zoom call, probably like about a month and a half before the actual trip. And Tia asked us as soon as we got on the call to let ourselves arrive, right? And I might have heard this term in passing. I don't think I've ever really acknowledged what that meant, like, allow yourself to arrive, just settle in, da 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 da. Like, it went over my head. But what is so beautiful about our encounters with one another is that people plant seeds in us and we don't realize that they have taken hold until we need them. And so she said all these words to us during the Zoom call. And the day of our trip, I ended up having to work half the day, which I didn't anticipate. And she made sure to plant more seeds of like making sure that you are prepared for the trip well in advance so you're not stressed out, making sure that you don't have a lot to do beforehand or after, just being very intentional and mindful about how we are treating ourselves going into this space. I didn't listen because my life was doing a 180 all around this time, and so I didn't have a chance to really allow myself to arrive or take care of myself going into it and just being prepared. So I rushed on my way there. I felt like I was late, but as I was driving, I heard her voice, just arrive. And to me, that was like not only confirmation, but it was motivation to just calm down, be still. You'll get there when you get there. And it's so crazy because for the last year or so, I've been constantly reminded you are where you need to be at all times. God's timing is perfect. Divine timing is real. So hearing this in the back of my mind as I am doing 160 whatever, I was riding fast and furious until I realized, calm down, girl, you'll get there when you get there, and there's nothing that you can miss out on. And so shout out to Tia for planting those little seeds and inviting me or introducing me to what it means to really arrive. So when I got there, I acknowledged that to her in perfect timing. We got there right before or right when they just started eating, so like we didn't miss anything. That was great. But then I think it was like the second day. Yes, the second day we ended up doing this sound bath meditation. And even before that, I had such a beautiful encounter. I had meditated in the forest. This space was so amazing. They had hammocks in the trees and a river that you can like sit by, or a creek. They just had so many great things for us to enjoy while we were on this trip, outside of the exercises, and outside of engaging with one another. There was time for us to just be in solitude and to sit with ourselves. So right before this meditation, I was in the hammocks journaling, and I had just had a conversation with God, and I felt called. This is a segue. I'm so sorry for the tangent, but I felt called to go talk to this girl that I had met, this woman I met. And I couldn't understand why, because I'd never met this woman a day in my life until that trip. And I was struggling with something, and there was something so heavy on my heart, and I felt God tell me, go talk to her. And it was so crazy because as soon as I like walked to this door to go see her, she walked out. And I was just like, I broke down. She asked me what was wrong, and I just told her, I don't know why God told me to come to you, but I'm coming to you. And I just told her my truth. And it was crazy because normally I have a fear of judgment. I have a fear of being seen. I have a fear of not being misunderstood. I have a fear of being misunderstood. So I tend to keep things to myself until I can process it. And then I could come to someone and share my experience. But it was like God was revealing to me there is power in community. There is power in being vulnerable right then and there and sharing your heart and hearing my call and being obedient to it. Like there was the fear of judgment almost kept me from going to her, but the tug of actually going and having a conversation with her and relieving myself of that burden was so much stronger that I didn't care what I looked like. And it's crazy because I have this thing where I tend to like look at myself from the outside in. Like I'm very super hyper aware of myself and self-conscious, and I just was looking at myself, looking at her, and I'm like, girl, you look crazy in the back of my mind. And she's probably thinking, why is she doing all of this right now? Like, just tears, sobbing, snot coming out, everything. Like, just to give you a visual. But at the moment, I didn't care. And it was so freeing because I felt like, when you're able to put your walls down and allow yourself to be seen, something magical happens. And she was so receptive, and I'm grateful I came to her, or rather she kind of came to me. But I'm grateful that I had that experience because what I didn't need in that moment was someone to tell me unsolicited advice or to tell me how I should feel or to shut me down. She was just very open and receptive, and I'm just so grateful that I had that moment. And I just had to share that for anybody who feels like they're afraid to be vulnerable and to share their hearts with someone. Don't be. There's actually power in your emotions. There's power in vulnerability. So allow yourself to be seen. And that segues into arriving even more. And so right after that situation, we go to the sound bath meditation. And the first thing Tia says as we are getting in our seats and getting prepared for this beautiful sound bath. It was my first time ever experiencing something like that, but she asked us to write, what does it mean to arrive? And I think I might have my journal. I want to see. 1 second. Let's see if I could pull that out. So I wrote, to arrive is to be here. To not just get there, but to be here. And it's crazy because that's all I wrote, right? Because like I said, I didn't know what it meant to arrive until I had this experience. And she took us through the sound bath. And what was so beautiful is that the entire time, she just kept saying, I invite you. I encourage you. It was nothing that felt forced about this experience at all. And what was so magical about the whole experience is that I finally, like I just mentioned moments ago, how I have this thing where I'm always looking on the outside in, never on the inside. Like, I'm able to, I'm able to intellectualize my experiences very often. Like, I'm in my head more than not, probably 90% of the time. And so it was weird because I want to say for the first 30 minutes I was observing myself within the experience. I wasn't actually allowing myself to experience it. And then something clicked where I realized I didn't feel safe to be in my body. And that is why for so long I have been so in my head. like most of my life, I've overthought everything. Haven't allowed myself to truly feel what I'm feeling at all times. Like I'm able to kind of dip into my body, but not arrive into my body. And so it was transformative, or yeah, it was transformative to be able to recognize why I was never allowing myself to arrive in my body, why I didn't feel safe to do so. And once I was able to have that realization, it was almost as if I had to give myself permission to go into my body, because for so long I didn't feel safe to. I felt like life had done a number on me, where I felt like there was pain in my body, there was fear in my body, there was this uncertainty that being here and arriving would mean that I would be home. And I never felt home before. I felt like I didn't know what home meant to me, because I was always moving as a child. And just so many things came up for me where when I allowed myself to come into my body, it was as if I arrived. Like that's the only way I can put it, is I came home. And I reminded myself that it is safe to be here, that all the things that I experienced in the past had no control over me. It had no weight on me anymore. I didn't have to allow it to. And that I can be within myself. And that, like I said, was magical, because it allowed me to feel myself, to feel my energy, to feel what I feel like other people see and experience of me. But because I didn't feel like I was safe to be in my body, because I didn't feel like I belonged to myself, I felt like I gave so much of myself to so many people, or rather people mistreated me and misused me and forced themselves on me, that they took parts of me, like I mentioned in the beginning, feeling disconnected from the whole. And so in that moment, I was able to invite my entire self back home, and to be still, and to arrive into my body. And it felt so good. Like good in a way that I didn't want anyone to ever interfere with that ever again. Like the child, for lack of better words, the inner child within me, I feel like I met her for the first time ever. And it feels like the work I've been doing for the last couple years now, I've seen glimpses of who this person is. I've done, work here and work there. I've chipped away at these walls that have been created through my experiences. And now I'm able to really be and to feel and to live and experience who I am. And it was just so beautiful. Like beautiful in a way that I feel like it shifted how I saw myself. And I wrote a list of a couple of things, or rather, wrong journal. I wrote a couple of things that I experienced as I was going through this. And I'll say that was the first part, is that I saw myself. The second part is belonging. So like I said, I feel like I never belonged to myself, and being able to belong to myself meant that I stopped trying to feel like I needed to be someone else to belong. I saw myself and I accepted all that I am. I realized that I am multifaceted. I am someone who is a introverted extrovert, or a social introvert. Like there are many sides to me, and that is okay. Like I remember a friend that I had went with, she had said something along the lines of like, you're bossy. And it triggered me for 2 seconds, because I was like, I don't even want those two words to come into the same sentence, me and bossy. But then I realized it's not about me being bossy. It's about me taking initiative. It's about me wanting to help and to be of service to others. Because for context, we were on our way back to the cabin, and the host had asked or had said that they would be over in a little bit because they were in a different site. That they would be over to set up the campfire. And in my mind, I was like, why don't we just set up the campfire so that they can come in and relax and enjoy it? And someone had mentioned, this is their retreat, like this is their setup, they can do it. And it became like a thing where I was looked at, or perceived rather, as bossy because I offered to do it myself, or controlling. I think it was controlling. I don't know. Either way, it threw me off. And then I was like, you know what? Once I arrived in myself and was able to reflect on all these things, I'm like, if me taking initiative and wanting to, lift a bit for other people makes me perceived as bossy or controlling, by all means, I don't care anymore. I don't care about a lot of things. That was honestly one of the greatest takeaways for me, is now I don't care. And that seems so maybe condescending, or I don't have words right now, but it may be looked at as a negative way, but I don't care. Respectfully, I don't. I have cared for so long about how people see me that it has caused me not to belong to myself. It has caused me not to arrive within myself, that now that I've arrived, I don't care how people see me. I don't care how people think of me. Like, and it sounds crazy because it's like, oh, we should care because we need people. And it's like, if you feel some type of way about who I am because I am who I am, then we don't belong to each other. And we don't need to be in connection with one another, with all due respect. I am someone who's super emotional, and I do have a need and desire to be seen. Before I realized that I had a fear of being seen, a fear of being judged, a fear of being looked at as too much. But I am a lot because I am who I am. I am a lot in the best way possible. I'm energetic. I am joyful. I am talkative. I am vibrant. And I'm okay with all those things. And some people may not be able to understand that. Some people may not be able to embrace that. And I'm okay with that. Because I love who I am. And I enjoy who I am. And it feels good to be me. And not anybody else. And so, in recognizing my fear of being seen, and I'm all over the place at this moment, but I'm gonna clean it up at the end. I had a fear of being seen, but in going through this experience, I recognized that the fears that we have are normally the thing that we need the most. So my fear of being seen was really my need to be seen, my need to be a part of something and to be appreciated or embraced. And that starts with myself first, but when we are able to show up for ourselves the way that we need others to do the same for us, we attract that for ourselves. We don't have to force it. And that's something else that I recognized. That all goes back into self-love. I think what was so big is that I then realized in me belonging and taking away this need to control how people see me, I realized that that's how I can learn to love myself, or rather show up for myself, is doing the things that I want to do and not being afraid of how it may affect other people. Meaning, if I don't want to do something, I'm going to say it, and I don't have to people please or develop codependent relationships in order to be embraced, in order to be seen, in order to be validated, because I validated myself first. So now that I can honor myself, that doesn't mean I can't hold space for you or show up for you. It means I'm not going to neglect my needs, and I'm going to honor how I feel in the situation. So if someone says, hey, can you do this thing for me? And I check in first and I arrive and I say, hey, that doesn't feel good. I don't think I want to do that. I don't feel like doing that. I'm not doing it. And that's okay. And that's okay. And it just feels so good. Can I just say it feels so good to respect myself. It feels good to honor myself. It feels good to love myself, because I feel like we think that love starts outwardly first, and it's like I need someone to love me, and we think that we have to perform for people in order to be loved, and it's like, no, you're loved just because you are. You don't need to do anything more in order to do that. And so again, it starts with self, but I recognized all of this in doing that. Like, I forget what it was. There was something I didn't want to do on the trip, and a part of me was like, well, what if the group, listen, nothing about this trip was forced in the first place. And honestly, I wanted to go sit in the trees somewhere for a moment and be away and enjoy my seclusion and my isolation for a bit. And I did it because I could, because I felt like it. And it felt so good to be able to stop thinking that I need to do what everybody else is doing, or rather what I feel they want me to do, and do what I want to do. Like, it was so free. So there's that. The last couple of things is I realized there's no such thing as right or wrong. Like, when I tell you during this sound bath meditation, Tia kept inviting us to shift positions, and I realized that a part of me was afraid of losing that connection I had with myself because I was in one position. I was like, oh, if I shift because my body feels it needs to shift, that goes back into self-love and taking care of myself, listening to myself and honoring my needs, that I was able to actually move and still feel that bliss I was feeling, feel that connection I was feeling because I was honoring myself. But there were moments where I had to get up and use the bathroom or move and you know, not really do necessarily what I felt like everybody else was doing. But the part of me that came into that room initially was like, well, I don't want to move because I don't want to disrupt the space around me. But it's like, no, there was no right or wrong answer. She didn't say we had to stay in any particular space or rather position. It was more so, what feels good to you? And I had to get up and go to the bathroom. Instead of holding it, go. Like, there, I had to really deconstruct so many things within myself during this process, and that was just 1 hour. Like, the entire trip was me deconstructing my beliefs, the way I look at myself, like I said, the way I see other people, the way I connect and just operate within a group. And so it was so freeing to be able to tell myself, hey, that's okay. You don't have to do that thing. You could actually do that thing if you wanted to. You don't have to submit to that. Honor yourself. And then lastly, oh, I already said that. Okay, well, yeah, that was it. So, seeing myself, honoring myself, the sense of belonging that I have, and learning to love myself as I am, while also embracing other people was so huge. And then knowing there's no right or wrong, like, those were all freeing, and recognizing that the thing you fear the most is the thing you need the most. Was really all that I had experienced when it comes to arriving, and that shifted the entire way I see arriving. And now it's like I don't want to ever not be a part of me. I don't want to ever not be within myself. And I'm being, oh my God, when I tell you, so back to the, I'm sorry, I'm on a roll right now. So when I tell you when I realized there's no right or wrong, it shifted so much. Like, I realized that, you know, like, this idea of if someone holds the door and doesn't say thank you, like, that's rude. Or let's say you smile or say good morning and no one says something back. That is such cultural conditioning. And it was like mind-blowing to me, because I realized me sharing myself and sharing my energy is doing those things. And sometimes I don't feel like doing those things. And that doesn't make me a bad person. Like, it was so mind-boggling to me that I realized if I don't want to speak, I don't have to. If I don't have nothing to say, I don't have to. If I don't feel like smiling, it's not rude. Like, and this, like I said, may sound bad to somebody, but this is a confirmation to somebody else. Like, we have to release ourselves from the shackle of these beliefs, because it is hurting us. It is making us lose parts of ourselves by trying to fit into this this box of what society says we have to do. And you're not a bad person. You're not a mean person because you don't want to share a part of yourself in that moment. That's okay. And that was huge for me. So, to sum it all up, I think the biggest takeaways for me is that I've shifted internally and eternally. Like, I just feel different. I feel like it has shifted the way I interact with people coming out of this space. Like, I feel so ready to embrace all that I am, and I have been. This is weeks after this trip, and when I say the encounters I've had, I'm quick to say no now if I don't feel like doing it. I'm quick to set a boundary in the most respectful way. I am quick to be loud and proud and goofy and just everything that I am because I am who I am, and I love that. And I think other people should experience it, and I don't care how they feel about it. Sorry. If you see me on the street, say what's up. If you see me and I don't speak, and that's what's up. I am a menace to society. Sorry. Yeah, I think that's about it. I love y'all so much, and I know I went on a big tangent. Dang, 33 minutes. We're gonna try to cut this baby down, but I miss you guys. I feel like I've been so disconnected because now, coming out of this, outside of like what I was going through the last couple of months, now that I've experienced myself and I've arrived and I'm here and I'm now and I'm enjoying my energy, and I'm also in a period of isolation, and we will get into that very soon. I'm a little scared to share myself with people because I don't want my energy to be tainted anymore. But then I realized that requires me to just have boundaries with myself and other people, like I said before. So we don't have to worry about that. I just want to get that out the way. I hope you all have been doing great. I hope that this inspires you to connect with yourself in a way you maybe haven't before, and to allow yourself to arrive, to call your energy back to you, and to rebuke anybody who's trying to disrupt or taint or to destroy your energy. Let them go. If you feel called to go within yourself and to cut connections with certain people, certain things, honor that. Listen to yourself. That's it. We know what we need. We know what we want. We have the answers, Slay. Okay? Listen to yourself. Yourself knows you better than anybody else. So that requires you to actually sit with yourself and to connect with yourself and to honor that person that you are. So I pray that this inspires you to do all of that. And if you feel inclined to do so, maybe comment down below what it means to arrive to you, or ask a question if you feel called to do so about how I got to this space, or share a tip that you may have or experience that you have about what it means to honor yourself and how to do that and all the good things, because this is a community for us to learn from one another, to share our experiences, and to uplift more than anything. So I love you all so much. As always, be sure to like, comment, share with your fellow lions so that they know where we're having these lion-hearted conversations. I love you guys so much. Amazing. And we did it!